Finally, we can visit the areas of Venice, Netherlands, and Germany to talk a bit about Renaissance in the North or the Northern Renaissance. Here's a map, so to give you a sense of where we've been and where we're going. You'll notice Italy to the south. We've been focusing our attention there. We're now moving our way northward into the areas that you'll notice are Venetian. And then the Holy Roman Empire is what is Germany today. And of course, the Netherlands there to the left of the Holy Roman Empire. So this will give you a sense of the geography we're talking about. Also, you'll notice that it's a map with religions on it as well, because one of the things that happens is you'll notice that Catholicism is mainly kind of in the south, and then we see Protestantism in the north. So there is more than just a geographical split here. There's also a religious split as well, and it does impact the type of art that's made in this region. Wanted to show you a few pieces. This one's from Venice. This is Titian in his famous Venus of Urbino. I show you this to show you about the reintroduction of the nude again. As I mentioned, during the medieval period, this really wasn't a subject. And also, we'll see more nudes in art moving forward, so it'll help you to think back on this one when we look at other subjects later on down the line, especially Manet's Olympia. So this piece, it kind of has two different readings. Some people read it as a wedding portrait. Other people read it as she's a courtesan. She's a woman who's kept and she entertains, right, the man who keeps her. I prefer that reading personally because Venus of Urbino links her to the Duke of Urbino in Venice at this time. So we think that perhaps this was the Duke of Urbino's courtesan or kept woman. And there's things in the imagery that lets you know that she's compliant or she serves him willingly. The dog, for instance, dogs are symbols of fidelity, and you'll notice that the dog is sleeping. So the idea that she is faithful. The flowers sort of tell us that the Duke is about to arrive. Flowers were sent to announce arrivals. Again, I show you this as a way to show you how nudity is going to start to come back into art, and then how we're going to see that moving forward as a subject. You also can look at Dürer. He's linked to the Holy Roman Empire, or Germany as we now think of it today. And many people often compare him to Leonardo because he had the same interest in knowledge and learning. Here's his self-portrait. For instance, even painting a self-portrait at this time was considered very inventive because not a lot of people had mirrors. So mirrors were quite expensive at this time. And the idea of him looking at himself and faithfully reproducing himself, again, they didn't have photographs or anything like that. This was thought to be kind of groundbreaking, right, for its time. So as you look at his portrait, you have to understand the context of the time period and how this was very inventive that he would even try to do this. Just like Leonardo, he kept notebooks. He loved to study the world around him and kind of look at every aspect of life. So there's a lot of natural studies he does and so forth. One of the amazing things about these is that they're watercolor. So again, you can go back and look at your painting mediums and think about how you could get this much detail from a watercolor, and it's quite incredible to even consider. He was a very detail-oriented artist. He's most well known, of course, for printmaking. And so you see here one of his prints, Adam and Eve. Again, the amount of detail in these prints is just incredible. And he kind of does this northern view on the Garden of Eden, which I think is interesting. Like we're in this Bavarian forest. And again, you look at the bodies and you can see he's referencing the Renaissance sculptures, just like Leonardo would or Donatello would or Michelangelo would. So it's again, this interesting revival of Greco-Roman look and think and feel, right, to it. This is another of his prints, Night, Death, and the Devil. And again, these prints weren't usually very big. They were meant to be something that really could maybe be like 2 hand lengths long, something you could hold in your hands and look at, because prints, again, are replicatable objects. They're usually very cheap. So you have to imagine this amount of detail, inside of a print. It's quite incredible to consider. And a lot of these Northern artists, they liked doing works that had kind of symbolism within them about life. And so in this one, you have the devil following the knight, death at his side, holding up the hourglass. And, in a sense, it's like we're supposed to meditate on, as the knight, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to be just, we're supposed to be upright in order to reach that shining city on the hill that you see in the background, which, basically symbolizes heaven. So again, there's a lot of symbolism in a lot of these Northern works. To show you some Netherlandish artists, I picked out Jan van Eyck, who often painted with his brother Hubert. Many people credit the Van Eycks with developing oil paint. So again, you can go back to your painting chapter and consider that. And this is a famous work that Jan van Eyck did that I always love talking about because it's chock full of symbolism, again, which Northerners loved. And it's the Arnolfini wedding portrait. The first thing right off people think is that, oh, she's pregnant. And I have to say, no, it's a fashion that they wore at the time when they put the bustle underneath the front of their garments to make them poof out that way. So it's not that she's pregnant. It's just fashion. So that's that. But this is a marriage portrait. And you'll notice there's things in there that speak to marriage. The dog, fidelity, right? The shoes are off, holy ground. There's other things sort of sprinkled in as well. And it's just a fun painting because there's so much detail in it and so much symbolism in it. Even the mirror in the background, you can see the Arnolfinis, and you can also see Van Eyck's reflection in it. It's really quite incredible. And above the mirror, he writes, basically Jan van Eyck was here. So it's kind of fun. Again, here's a close-up of the mirror. And when we talk about symbolism, we often talk about this as what we call secondary symbolism. So there's a main thrust of the painting or a main subject of the painting, and then the painter would hide little things in the painting to, symbolize these different things. For instance, we're looking at this painting backwards now. If you look on the counter, you can notice the oranges. That relates to like wealth. So again, there's a lot of the secondary symbolism that's sprinkled in these Northern paintings. The close-up of the mirror also shows you that he went so far as to paint Christ's Passion or the crucifixion around the rondelle of the mirror, which is, again, like, wow, no stone left unturned for this guy. He wanted to hit every detail in that painting. He was determined for it to be, again, the best it could be. The final painter I'm showing you here is Bruegel the Elder. And if we call someone the Elder, that means there was a younger. So that's why we have to make sure we call him Bruegel the Elder. And he was known for painting these kind of little genre works of people doing everyday things, everyday life. So here we are with the peasants. They're drinking, they're having fun. And Northerners tended towards these more everyday subjects. You were not going to see this as much in the South. But here we see people living their lives and having fun and drinking and partying. And the way that they often even talked about religion was this sort of more comedic presentation. The idea of like the blind leading the blind. This is a painting that says like, think for yourself, in all matters. A big, large, small, everything in between. Just think for yourself. But again, it's this comedic kind of painting of all these people falling over each other into like a pit because they're all following each other blindly. They're not thinking about their actions. So Northern painters often like to put a little bit of commentary in there too, to make you think about your actions or think about what you were doing. And I'll leave you there with the Renaissance, and I'll be talking to you again soon.